So here we are. I've got my paper, I've got my watercolors, and I've got my book. So yes, if you'd like to start putting some water in your watercolors, you can do that. I will talk about that though in just a second. So we are going to be working on a project from my brand new book, Watercolor Wanderlust. It's been out for about a month now, so I thought I'd celebrate the 1 month release date with a fun little live tutorial. So this is the project that we're going to do. It's called The Glorious Sunset. So the main sort of focal point of this painting is this sunset, which is very fun. And then we're going to do some little tree silhouettes down here at the bottom, just to kind of ground it in reality. So as you can see, you've got all of our colors that you need here. Don't worry too much about the colors. I will talk about that later. And here is the reference photo for today. You can see that the painting and the reference photo don't look a ton alike. I kind of just use the reference photo as guidance, especially with sunsets, because they're very forgiving, and you can really just paint them however you want. So I just kind of use the reference photo for sunsets as like a color palette, and then we can kind of paint it from there. So I might diverge a little bit from like how this one looks as well, and maybe change it a little more towards this one, but we'll see. So yeah, we're going to start here. Before we do that, I'm going to go over my materials. I have my watercolor paper here. It is different from what I normally use. I picked this up at the art store yesterday because I couldn't resist. The art store gets me every time. The brand is Fluid 100. I've actually never tried this paper before, so this is my first time trying it. It is a watercolor block, which means it is bound. The pages are all glued together on the bottom and on the top. On the sides, they are separate. You can see there. So what this does is it keeps it flat without me having to tape it down. And it is also a little bit smaller size, which I felt like would be good to get everything in the frame as we're painting. So I just wanted a smaller size of paper and to try a new brand. So I will let you know how I find it at the end. I will not recommend it yet until I've actually tried it, but I'm seeing some people say it's quite nice, so that's good. I'm glad. It is 100% cotton watercolor paper, which is good. So if you're looking for some watercolor paper, I like to look for paper that is 100% cotton. You'll just usually get better results on that kind of paper. And this pad wasn't crazy expensive either. I think it was like $14, and it's 15 sheets of paper. Okay, my watercolors, as per usual, are my Winsor&Newton watercolors. These are professional level paints. You do not have to have professional level paints. Whatever you have at home is totally fine. I've got my watercolor brushes. You'll need a couple big ones and a couple small ones. One big, one medium, one small usually is good. So I'm going to use probably this one, maybe this guy, to put some water on the paper. And then I've got some smaller ones like these for the details. Okay, so these are Princeton Neptune. Whoa. And this one is Christy Rice's brand. She's a watercolor artist on TikTok. So I like these Princeton Neptune ones if you're looking for some new watercolor brushes, and Christy Rice's are nice as well. How can you tell if your paper is 100% cotton? It'll say on the front cover because they like to brag about that. So if you're looking at a watercolor paper and it does not say 100% cotton, it is not 100% cotton. What if you look for in brushes to determine if they'll be good to use, regardless of price? Honestly, it's kind of a trial and error kind of situation. Usually if they're really cheap, they're not going to last you very long. But if they're really expensive, it's not worth paying that much. Like they're not going to, after a certain point, the quality doesn't get better as the price increases. So I've just used these Princeton Neptune brushes for many years, and they don't lose hairs. They hold their shape. They hold a lot of water, so I just have stuck with these. But it's kind of a trial and error thing. Yeah, I like Princeton Velvet Touch too. I use those for gouache more so than watercolor because they don't hold as much water. Okay, and then as I told you before, we've got our book. We've also got just random household supplies. We've got paper towels. We've got our cup of water, all of that jazz. Okay, so before we get started, as per usual, we need to get our watercolors ready to paint this. So that means we're going to put a little drop of water into each of our watercolor pans. And we may not use every color, but it's just good to get them ready, especially for sunsets. We use lots of colors for sunsets. You can use a spray bottle too if you have a spray bottle. I just prefer to use a brush because it gets more water into each pan. And so it actually really starts to dissolve. Okay, and we're going to let those sit for just a minute here, and then we're going to talk about our composition. So what we're going to end up doing is kind of painting a sunset on our whole paper. And then at the end, we're going to put the trees over the top. But we're going to do kind of a wet on wet technique where we're putting a layer of water down on the paper and then putting our colors in, mixing it around a little bit, letting it dry, and then adding some details. Okay, so that's kind of the general idea of what we're going to do. As we're painting, just remember my usual kind of advice to you is to enjoy the lesson. Try not to put too much pressure on yourself to paint a perfect painting, especially if you're new to watercolor. Try and just enjoy the process and enjoy the hour that you're spending for yourself, and try and learn something, and don't put too much pressure on yourself to make like a perfect painting. This is meant to be practice. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. As I'm painting, I will try to answer all of them. And be nice to each other, be nice to yourself, be kind to me, and we will have a fun time. And this live will be recorded and uploaded to my YouTube channel later. So if you can't make it for the whole thing, or you need to leave, or if you miss a step, you can always go back and watch it later. It'll be uploaded later today. Okay, so now that our paints have had time to kind of dissolve and get ready for us, we are going to start by mixing up our first set of colors. So in my book, I have, for each step, I have swatches of all the colors that you need. And so you can mix them all first, and then you can do the steps. So what we're gonna do is mix all of our colors and then put them all onto the paper while it's still wet. So we want to have our colors ready. So we need a yellow, an orange, a purple, and a blue. Those are our colors for today. So you can match my colors here as I mix them. I'm going to start with my yellow. I like to just do cadmium yellow. It's kind of just like a sunflower yellow here. And as you're mixing your colors, I want you to really dig your brush. Use a big brush as you're mixing colors, and really dig your brush into the paint here. Push it in there. Be mean. Don't be gentle. And that will get you a really nice, strong, concentrated color in your palette. Because we're putting it onto wet paper as we're painting, it will dilute itself onto the paper, so we want our colors to be strong here as we're mixing them. So we've got a really nice, vibrant, saturated yellow here. Okay. Our next color is an orange. So I'm just going to mix together some cadmium orange that I have. Again, I'm like swirling and pushing my brush into my palette, and that'll get you some really nice, vibrant colors. And I'm just going to add a touch of red to that as well, just to get more of a reddish orange. So I added a touch of cadmium red, so we get more of a reddish orange. Again, really nice and strong color. Okay, next color is purple. So we are going to mix together some ultramarine blue. Again, really digging that brush in there. And then we're going to add some magenta to that, just a little bit at a time. Okay. And that'll make us a purple color, and we're going to add just a touch of brown, just to dull it down a little bit. Just a little tiny touch. Should be mostly purple. There's our purple color. And then our last color is blue. So I'm just going to use, in my book, I think it says ultramarine blue plus phthalo blue, which you are welcome to do. I think I'm just going to stick to ultramarine blue today. I've been doing that a little bit more in my paintings, not using phthalo blue quite as much. So again, nice strong color there. Ultramarine blue. Okay. And I'm actually going to add one more color that's not in the book, just because I think it'll be easier for us to do this. So the last color is magenta. So whatever kind of purpley, red, pink color that you might have in your palette, grab some of that. So I'm just going to grab some of this magenta. And that's going to be our transition color between orange and purple. Orange and purple are kind of opposite each other-ish on the color wheel, which means where they touch, you'll kind of get a brown color. So what we're going to do is use the magenta, which mixes well with orange and mixes well with purple, to kind of transition them together. Okay, so this is our last color, and that'll make more sense when we actually paint. So there's our 5 colors. Get those ready. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you'd like to watch me do this part and you're still mixing your colors, that is okay. There will be some downtime after we're done while we wait for it to dry. So don't worry about catching up right now. If you're still mixing your colors, you can just kind of watch and mix your colors at the same time and then do the steps that I'm about to do, okay? So what we're gonna do is cover the entire paper with water, clean water from our cup, and then we're going to go in kind of this rainbow order, starting with yellow, orange, pink, purple, blue. Okay, so we're gonna kind of go in that order and go from the bottom to the top, putting those colors in. And I will show you what I'm about to do, okay? So I'm using a big brush and just putting a nice, even, relatively heavy coat of water onto the entire paper. This is where the watercolor block comes in handy. I can just paint all the way to the edges. And you can kind of tilt your head, tilt your paper, make sure you look at it in the light so that you can see if you've missed any spots. So you should have a good, like a nice coat of water on there. Not like a lake, but not drying in any spots as you're working, okay? So I've got a nice coat of water on there now. I'm gonna switch to a slightly smaller brush, just to have a little bit more control, this 1/2-inch oval brush. And I'm gonna get my yellow on there, and I'm just gonna use some sweeping motions, kind of sideways and up in each direction, sweeping motions. And I'm just gonna put this yellow down here, a nice little spot of yellow right there. Okay, then I'm gonna switch to my orange, clean my brush off, switch to my orange. I'm gonna put that orange underneath the yellow, kind of swirl it through, and then go above the yellow as well. So that orange is going to go all the way to the bottom of the paper down here, and then just kind of swirling up. And you can see that because that water is on the paper before, our orange is kind of blending into that water. Those 2 colors are blending together. That's what we want. Now I'm going to switch to the pink, put that in right above the orange, kind of swirl it in. Again, you can kind of just use these sweeping motions with your brush. Don't feel like you have to do stripes. I want you to kind of mix the colors together a little bit. So you should be about halfway up your paper when you're done with the warm colors here. Okay. Then, again, cleaning off my brush, switching to the purple color. Now we've got our transition shade of the pink. So that will mix well with the purple and the orange. Again, putting in the purple here, we can kind of start going up to the top. Swirling that in, sweeping motions with the brush. Don't overdo it, just kind of put the colors down and then move on. And we're gonna move on to our blue and fill in the rest of the paper. Okay. Once all those colors are in, you can either leave it, if you like how it looks, feel free to leave it. You can use a clean, damp brush to blend some areas together. So if I have kind of a damp brush here, I can just kind of blend some certain areas together with light brush strokes here. Or, my favorite, you can pick up and tilt your paper slowly in different directions. And that will kind of allow the paint to run together and blend together really softly. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of do this. I'm just tilting it very slowly in different directions, letting all that paint run together, blend together nicely for me. And then once I'm happy with where things are, I'm going to set my paper flat, and that will stop the blending. I don't know what that is, but we're going to pick that up. Okay, one last small step before it dries completely. You can take a completely dry brush and just start touching it in the yellow section down here. That will give you some small highlights. It'll pick up the paint on the paper. I can zoom that in for you. So I'm using a completely dry brush, smaller brush, and I'm just touching it to these areas down here. And that'll give you like an extra little highlight, like the sun is shining through right there. What paper are you using? It is Fluid Watercolor. That's the brand right there, Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Okay, let me see if I've missed any problems, any questions here. Yeah, I've mixed a lot of paint, so that's how I know how to mix it. I've done it a lot. It always takes practice. I have such a hard time with watercolor when I try to put it on that palette. It just ends up on my brush. Yeah, so that's why I was telling you to really dig your brush into that paint there. When you dig your brush and you use a big brush and you use water as well, it kind of helps to get all of that pigment onto the actual palette. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this dry here. Oops. Here we go. There's our beginnings of the sunset there. I'm liking how it's looking so far. Another thing you can do if you have some areas where you've got a lot of paint kind of pooling, you can use that dry brush and just gently kind of touch it to that area and just pick up the excess. You don't want to pick up so much that you end up with a highlight, but you can just pick up the extra there so you don't get any weird textures. What causes the speckling effect, paper or paint or both? So the speckling effect that's happening there is because this is 100% watercolor paper, or it's 100% cotton paper. So you can see all the speckles here. So that's just the fibers kind of being agitated with the paint. Once it dries, that look will kind of go away. But that's the kind of thing that you get with 100% watercolor paper. It's completely normal, and once the paint dries, it'll go away. You can see in these areas here, where the paint's mostly dry, that texture goes away. Yep, I can show the paper type once again. There it is. You can screenshot it. Take a look. I'm liking it so far. And let's see if we have any other questions. How's this going for you? Let me know if you are. Any idea why my watercolor is sudsing up? Mine does that too. It's part of the binder that watercolor paint is made of. It sometimes makes bubbles. It's completely normal. Okay. Did you get paint on the paper underneath? I try not to. Sometimes it'll end up kind of on the sides, but not really on the paper underneath. Yeah, we're good. We're clean. But I'm trying to be careful about it. That's the only kind of bummer about watercolor blocks, especially because these are not bound on the sides. So you can sometimes, if you're not careful, get paint underneath and onto the next paper. So just keep that in mind. Was there palettes, or was that water down the drain literally? What? How do you keep your paper from curling? You don't really. Unfortunately, watercolor paper will buckle a little bit. You can see how mine is kind of bowed away from the rest of the watercolor block. That's just what happens when you add water to paper. And some papers that are more expensive will do that less, but it'll still do it a little bit. And once it dries, it'll kind of go back down. What you can do is use a hairdryer to dry it. You can also leave it, once it's completely dry and you're done with it, leave it under some heavy books. You can iron it lightly on like a really low setting. But yeah, the watercolor paper will buckle a little bit, and that's okay. I think they asked if you wash them. Yeah. So are you talking about if I wash the palette off? Yeah, once I'm done with these colors, yeah, I'll wash the colors away. But not the ones in here, obviously. Okay, so let's talk about what's next. So again, we've done step 5. We've gone through step 5 already. We've done a lot of steps already. And just a reminder, if you're enjoying this session and you'd like to purchase my book, it is available everywhere you can buy a book. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, all of that stuff. It is also linked in my bio if you'd like to check out my book. It is basically these live sessions in book form. And it's helpful because then you can stop and pause. Will your palette be available again? Yes, the Artistro palette that I made is going to be available soon. I believe they said end of May was when it was going to be back in stock. Okay, so our next step is to create some clouds. So we need to wait for this to completely dry. So we've got a few minutes that we're just going to chat with, but we do need the paper to be dry. Then we're going to mix up some purple colors and paint in our clouds, and then we're going to add our trees. So we've just got a couple more steps, but these steps will take us a little while. So we've got a few more things to do. Do it. The book is awesome. Thank you so much. And all of you who have the book, I appreciate that. My watercolor block is bound on all four sides. How do I separate the pages? So that's a good question. If you should find, there's usually, if it's bound on all four sides, there's like a section that's maybe an inch long. It could be on the top or on the sides somewhere, or on the bottom, one of the sides. There will be a section where the glue is, where they have not glued. It could be just about an inch long. And when you find that spot, you'll take a palette knife or something and you'll slide it in there, and then you'll go around and break the glue seal all the way around. But there should be a spot where it's not bound. Okay. Yeah, good. Thank you all for all the advice. Yes, this will be uploaded to YouTube. And again, my book is called Watercolor Wanderlust by me. There's my name right there. And it's got 24 lessons in it. So you'll have 24 landscapes that you'll paint with this book, which is very exciting. There we go. Do you ever force dry? Yes, I definitely hair dry. My hair dryer lives in my studio. I do not use it to dry my hair. It just lives in here to dry my watercolor paintings. Yes, I just like to give you guys time to kind of catch up to my instructions, so I'm not using the hair dryer right now. I love your book and the palette. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you all. Everyone who has ordered the book and who is enjoying it, I really appreciate you all supporting it, and I hope you're enjoying the landscape lessons. How do I know what brushes to buy? Are they numbered? Yes, all of the brushes have numbers on them. They kind of wear out as you use them, but this is a 4. So this is a 4 round. That's how you can tell what it is. So that's a pretty small brush. I use this for like smaller details. Usually a 0 or a 1 round is a good detail brush. I think this is a 2 round, but same thing. I think I have this is a 0 right here, so you can see that's really tiny. And then as they go up in number, they go up in size. So I've got a 12 round here, so that's much bigger. I believe the numbers refer to the millimeters across, like diameter of the brush, but I could be wrong on that. So that's a 12 round. This one is a 3/4 inch flat, so that means this part is 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, so the numbers indicate how big the brushes are. And you don't need every single number. You can just get like a 4 and then a 12 and then maybe one of these flat washes and then a 0. You know, you don't need every single number. I love the book and the instructions are simple to follow. Oh, good. I'm so glad. And yes, this will be on YouTube later. Do you have any tips about starting a TikTok account? Not really. The algorithm is a mystery to me. But my tip for you is to just do it and post and try not to care too much about how many people see your, try not to care too much about how many people see your TikTok. Just kind of don't get discouraged. Keep posting, do it for fun, make it fun for yourself. And that's advice for myself too. That's what I try and don't always succeed at doing. All the numbers, yeah, exactly. Okay, our paper is getting to be mostly dry here. I might hit it with a hairdryer just to make sure that it's dry. You can see that texture kind of stuck around there, and I'm not sure why it did, but I'm kind of digging it, so I don't mind. It only stuck around in the blue and purple area, so I don't know. Watercolor does its own thing. I don't always know what's going on. Okay, so we need to make up a couple of colors for our clouds here. We're going to do both light clouds and dark clouds. So I'm just going to clean off a couple of spaces on my palette here so that I have a little more room to work. Also, let me know what I should do with these paintings that I do from Paint and Sips. I usually put them on my Etsy, but if it would be more beneficial to just kind of auction them off after paint and sips. If people are interested in buying them, let me know. I'm just not sure what to do. But I would like to get these paintings out to people, and I don't charge usually all that much for them. Like I'd probably charge maybe 35 or 40 bucks for this painting that I'm going to paint today. So let me know if you have any ideas on that. But the next thing we're going to do is mix up some paint for our clouds. So what I have here, as you can see in the final painting, you can see I have some orange clouds down here, and then I also have these dark kind of purple clouds. So we're going to mix those two colors. Let's mix up an orangey, maybe reddish orange. So I'm going to mix together orange and magenta. That'll make kind of like a pinkish red, almost like a peachy color. And we're going to add some water to these colors as well. So not quite as vibrant as we needed for before. Let's just add a little bit of water. There's that color for you there. Okay, and then we're gonna do a purple color. I'm just gonna mix it out of the purple color that we used for the sky. So I'm just gonna activate that up again. And it's gonna be a very similar color. We had ultramarine blue and magenta to make purple. And then you can add a little bit of brown, just a touch. I'm gonna add a little more blue. And what I'm gonna do is keep this one concentrated, and then with whatever's on my brush, I'm just gonna dip that brush in water once, and then bring that to a separate spot in my palette. And then now I have that same color, I'm just adding water to it, and it's just watered down. So I've made a watered down version and a strong saturated version. So there's the watered down version. And here is the saturated version. Okay, so just two different saturations of the same color. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a detail brush. So I'm going to go back to my 2 round brush here, and we're going to start with the light clouds kind of down here at the horizon line. So let's zoom in here. We're picking up that orangey color that we've mixed. What color for the purple? Same color as with the sky, blue, magenta, and a little bit of brown. Okay, so I'm just gonna use my small brush down here, and I'm gonna kind of hold it almost parallel to the paper. And I'm just gonna use the side of it to kind of drag along the paper here and just create some little streaky clouds down here. Clouds down here at the horizon line. You can also use the tip of the brush too if you want more control. Clouds down here at the horizon line are not usually very fluffy because they're far away. You can't really see a ton of them. So we're just gonna add these little streaky clouds. As you work your way up, they can get a little bit thicker, like that. You can also dry brush the clouds on. So if you take a lot of the paint off of your brush with a paper towel, you'll end up with just, oh, took too much off. You'll end up with just like kind of really light color. It'll kind of break across the texture of the paper there. So you can kind of experiment with the textures here that you're using. You can have some that go just like directly through this light spot here if you want. But we're just adding some little streaky clouds down here. Do you have an about info anywhere? Not a ton, I don't think so. But if you, yeah, what do you need it for? This makes me want to paint again. It's been 2 years. You should paint again. Don't let anything stop you. Okay, so again, we're just using our small brush and adding these streaky clouds down here. You can start adding, as we work our way up to about halfway up the page, you can maybe start adding some like fluffy clouds. So just kind of press down lots of dots with your brush and kind of congregate them together really randomly, kind of like that. And you can add some streakies in there too. But that'll start to make those fluffy clouds. My art project. Oh yeah, you're the one who's commented on my stuff. Yes, you can email me. I'm happy to answer your questions for your art project, but I just need you to email me. So if you go to my link tree, I have an email in there. Yeah. Cheap watercolors, please. I work with Artistro, and they do a good job with budget-friendly watercolors. I have a palette with Artistro that's a little bit more expensive, but it's higher quality paints. But they have some travel watercolor kits that are not too expensive, and they're good quality. So that's probably what I would recommend. Okay, so we're just kind of adding our light colored clouds. I don't want you to take this any higher than about halfway up the paper if you haven't already. Again, I can do that kind of dry brushing, just kind of scraping my brush along the paper here. Again, on this side, maybe we've got maybe a fluffy cloud here. You can also go back over some of these clouds if you want to, just to add a little bit more dimension to them. Feel free to do that. You can add some really small ones, like just little dashes kind of around here. You can really clouds are really forgiving. They can look a lot of different ways, so. If you want my my art supply recommendations, you can go to my Amazon storefront. I've got lots of stuff that I recommend in there. It's linked in my bio. And I've got lots of stuff with different price points in there. Okay, I think I'm going to move on from these fluffy clouds here. Or from these orange ones, I should say. All right, so here's where we're at right now. And now we're gonna fill in kind of the top half with our purple clouds. So I'm gonna move to a slightly bigger brush because these are gonna be larger. As you work your way up the painting, the clouds need to get larger and taller. And as you work your way down the painting, they get flatter and thinner. Okay. So let's go into our watered down purple here. And with this color, we can do a few different things. Again, I'm just gonna kind of give you options and you can create the clouds that you want in your landscape. So we can continue with the kind of streaky clouds here. And use the side of the brush and just kind of scrape along the paper. You can see that kind of forms those kind of wispy clouds that you can see in the sky. So I'm just using just a little paint on my brush and just kind of scraping the flat side of my brush over the paper. So you can add those in different spots. We can also add some fluffy clouds. So I'm using a little bit more paint and I'm just kind of dotting and swirling my brush and creating kind of a fluffy shape. You could even, while that's still wet, drop a little bit of that concentrated purple in there to create that shape. And I really like to kind of go up and out. So if you're moving your way up, you go one of the two directions, either towards one of the corners. If that makes sense. I don't like to go straight up with these clouds. Just go up and out. Okay, so I'm making kind of a big fluffy cloud here. You can really just make whatever clouds you want, wherever you want. So you've got the streaky clouds, we've got the fluffy clouds. Let's see, what else do we have? We can do, with that concentrated purple, we can do like maybe something in between the streaky and the flat cloud, kind of right here. Maybe it kind of comes up like that. So it kind of thins out on the edges here, and then it turns into a fluffy cloud. So kind of mix in those two things. You can go back and forth between that concentrated purple and the watered down purple, depending on how subtle you want the cloud to be. You can also use a clean damp brush, I should say, and blend out some of the edges of these clouds if you want, if you don't want as harsh of a line. Okay. Yes, it'll be uploaded to my YouTube channel later today, so you can always go and watch it later. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That'll help a lot, especially if this app ends up going away. That's probably where I'll move to. My YouTube channel is linked in my bio, and it's also Hannah MP Art and Prints. If you search that, you'll find me. Hannah MP will probably be enough for me to pop up on there. Okay, so let's add some more, maybe some streaky clouds with the darker purple. Let me know how's this going for you. I'm happy to answer any questions if you're confused at all or anything like that. You can also add some of these purple clouds down here in the lower half of the paper. Again, they should be streaks and not so much fluffy clouds, but you can mix them in with these orange clouds too. Don't feel like you have to just keep them on their sides. Okay, so I'm kind of mixing in the purple clouds down here. Yeah, for those of you painting along with me, let me know how you're doing so far. If you're encountering any problems, please let me know. I'm happy to help. Describe how to do the clouds very well. Thank you. I'm glad you're having some success. It does take practice, but I think just kind of mixing in the streaky clouds and the fluffy clouds gives you a good realistic kind of look on clouds. I'm going to mix a little bit more paint here. And you can always go back in over what you've done already to darken it or add some detail. So again, don't feel like you have to just kind of one and done these clouds. You can always go back over them later, like that. Just starting enjoying the process in your tutorial. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're having fun. I'm glad you've picked up a brush. My streaky clouds turned out too streaky. That can happen sometimes. You kind of have to find the right balance. And again, that just takes practice. But I totally understand how that can happen. You can always fluff them up a little bit if that might help. I don't know exactly what it looks like on your end, but you can always just add a little bit of extra, volume to them, and that can sometimes help that problem. So you can see how as you go up and out with these clouds, they all kind of point towards the center. So all of these clouds are kind of guiding your eye towards the center of the painting, which is right here, right? And so that's kind of the idea of that perspective that I was telling you about, where you go up and out. It creates a more like kind of a funnel for your eye. It brings all the attention in towards the painting and not out. And so that's kind of maybe like a little painting hack that you can use. Your details and such as you're painting should kind of point around your painting, point towards the middle of your painting. So you're directing the eye, you're directing the attention. It's also just kind of with the perspective that we have of clouds. It's just kind of how clouds end up looking. Okay, I think I might wrap this up pretty soon here. Maybe add a couple more smaller clouds. And then we will move on to our last step, which is adding the trees at the bottom, which is an eerily similar process to adding these clouds. Nature is funny that way. They're just things that look, if you've ever looked at like some cumulus clouds, they look a lot like deciduous trees in the summertime, just a different color. Do you upload the full live on YouTube or another platform? Yes, all of the entire live will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, which is linked in my bio in the link tree. So you can find it there. Please subscribe. Help me out. And it'll be uploaded there later today. Probably just an hour or two after this live is over. It's a long video, so it takes a little while to upload all the way. And while we're doing this, finishing up these clouds, I do just want to do my regular plugs because you are a captive audience and it helps me out with my art business. So bear with me. If you go to the link tree in my bio, you'll find many things. The first thing you'll find is the link to order my book, Watercolor Wanderlust, which is what this project that we're doing today is from. So if you're enjoying this tutorial and you have not already picked up my book, I would appreciate that so much. It means a lot to me. I worked really hard on it all of last year, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm really happy to hear that people are really enjoying it as well. That really makes me happy. So check out my book, again, in the link tree. First link in there will take you directly to wherever you'd like to buy it. Whatever platform you'd like to support has the options for all of those. My second thing in the link tree is my Etsy shop. So where I go to sell all of my paintings. I have bookmarks, I have postcards, I have prints, original paintings. I've got some great stuff for Mother's Day, which is coming up. So make sure you grab some stuff from there if you're looking for a gift or maybe something for yourself. That means a lot to me. I work really hard on my Etsy shop as well, so I always appreciate support there. I have my YouTube channel in my bio. I am starting to post more on YouTube because of the peril that this app is currently under in the US. So please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do longer form kind of videos on there. I have a Patreon there if you'd like to support me monthly. And I also have, the last thing I'll talk about is my tip jar. So if you're enjoying today's lesson and you want to leave me a little tip or a little gift, you can scroll down on my link tree and you'll find a little tab called Tip Jar, and that will make it easy for you to leave me a tip if you are so inclined. And again, that is also super appreciated if you are willing to do that. So I think that's all my plugs. Please, just the overall message there is to just check out the link tree, see what you're interested in. If you like my art, if you like my work, support a nice local artist and help me pay my bills. Thank you. And thank you so much for all of your support if you have supported me already. And if you are not in a position to support me financially yet, that is okay. If you just follow me on TikTok, on Instagram, on all the platforms, leave comments, leave likes, it truly does genuinely help me and my business. So if you are not in a place to do that, to support financially, supporting on the internet is super helpful as well. And thank you for any support that you are able to offer me. I appreciate it. You're helping me live my lifelong dream. Okay, so we've got our fluffy clouds all in here. I think I'm going to go ahead and stop right about here. We don't want to overdo it. And let's go ahead and add our final details here. Love your bookmarks. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. These are Winsor&Newton professional watercolor paints. I do like the Cotman ones as well. Those are good, more budget-friendly watercolors, but because I am a professional artist, I do splurge for the professional watercolor paints. Okay, last step here. Let's make some trees. So we're going to mix up a super dark green here. You can see in the book, We've got dark green here. It looks almost black, but we're going to mix that up with some green, some blue, some brown, and some gray. So, what was I looking at? Okay, sweet. Yes, the paper is a block. So I'm going to grab some sap green here. I'm using my detail brush to mix this up because I'm going to use my detail brush to paint. Sap green, ultramarine blue, brown, and gray. And the combo of all these colors will give you what looks almost black, but it is really dark green. I can show you here. If you water it down, you can see it is green. Okay, so you're just going to get a really nice dark green. So again, green, blue, brown, either black or gray, whatever you have in your palette. And again, I'm going to use a small detail brush, zoom you in here. And my trees are going to kind of just take up maybe the bottom less than a fourth of the page. We want the sunset to be really the highlight of this painting. So we're just going to use a light touch, and I'm just going to kind of form the outsides of these trees with dots. So you can see I'm kind of creating a tree shape with these dots here. And I'm going to do a few more dots, kind of make a layer of dots. And then once that's done, you can fill in the rest. So that will give you the look of like the leaves, the layer of leaves and stuff on the outside that you can see through. And then once the leaves get too thick, you can't really see through them anymore. That's the rest of the tree. Okay. So then we're going to repeat that process, add another tree here, make it a different shape. Be creative with the shapes of these trees. They don't need to be completely perfect, perfectly round. They can have some branches and stuff sticking out of them. And then fill that in. And we're just going to repeat that process all the way along the bottom of the page. Maybe we've got another short one here, and then another kind of tall one that comes up this way. Just create kind of an interesting skyline of trees here. And as you notice, as this paint is drying, it's not that dark. So as you paint, you can always go over those layers again with another layer of paint, and that will just deepen the color and give you a nice dark silhouette. Okay. You can also, if you want them to be a little bit more messy, just kind of use the heel of your brush. So I'm using the end where the brush kind of meets the end of the brush here, and use the heel to kind of swirl it around, and you'll just kind of get like a rough tree outline there. So that's another option for you. Kind of use the back of the brush, the back end of the brush, swirl it around in circles. You'll get kind of a messy looking outline. You can use the front of the brush to do the same thing. Just kind of press it into the paper, get a nice messy outline of a tree. So those are two options for you in how to paint these trees. You can do either, you could do both. That is up to you. I gotta mix a little bit more paint here. Charlie, I'll message you later with my email. I am using a 2 round for this here. I think I'm going to kind of stick to this other texture that I was kind of talking about here. Personally, I think that's just working better for me today. So I'm just kind of using the point of my brush, just kind of swirling it into the paper, letting it create kind of a rough outline of a tree there. Maybe I'll do these to match. And don't make it perfect. Let the brush kind of go around here. If you do it quickly, you'll kind of get some fun textures there too, like that. Go. So I'm just kind of pressing the brush in, scraping it, swirling it in a circle, and that'll get me those fun kind of textures. Fill it in. We could do it again. We could get kind of a double layer thing going on. The brand of the paper is Fluid 100. Okay, now I can go back over, and if I have any spots that I need to kind of go over again to get that depth that we're looking for, depth of color, I can do that. So maybe like here, I go back over this, maybe I leave that there, that kind of looks like that tree's behind these two. I don't know. Kind of just play around with it. Here I can add a little bit more texture. You can build up the trees a little bit more if you want to. Yeah. I'm liking this. Okay, I'm gonna zoom you back out here. I think we're pretty much done, just in time. There we go. Just finish up the final details here. Now, this is your painting, so if you would like to add a plane, a flock of birds, a hot air balloon, what else could go in the sky? Some stars, you could add the moon. You know, it is your painting, so feel free to make it your own, customize it, add something else. You could add some taller trees down here. You could add some evergreen trees kind of peeking up from this forest here. So don't feel like you have to stop here if you don't want to. If you want to add some more details, you are always welcome to do so. And be creative with what your painting looks like. It doesn't have to look like mine. A couple of birds. Yeah, I think this is pretty much it for our painting today. I will show you how I take it off the block, and as I do that, I will just give you my plugs one more time. So again, if you'd liked this live and you are interested in some more tutorials like this, again, please pick up my book, Watercolor Wanderlust. If you click on the link tree in my bio, you'll find this link first. And it'll take you to your options for where you can buy this book. You can buy it from anywhere you can buy books. It is called Watercolor Wanderlust, and people seem to really like it. I've gotten lots of good reviews, and I did a lot of work on this. So it would make me very happy if you check out that book. You can also check out my Etsy shop, linked in my bio as well, if you're looking for some new paintings. So I'm just gonna slide my palette knife kind of under here and break up that glue. Yeah, so you can check out my Etsy shop. I've got bookmarks, postcards, prints, original paintings, all of that stuff. So please do check that out. And my YouTube channel is there too. Subscribe. This will be uploaded to YouTube later. So now we have a fresh piece of paper down here. Can put that to the side, and here is our painting. Fully released from the block. You can also, sometimes the glue gets left kind of around the edges here. You can kind of just peel that off, I think, with your fingernail if you don't want that on, or you can kind of just lightly trim around the edges if you want to get rid of that glue. Yeah, this tutorial will be uploaded to my YouTube channel later, so please go follow along there. I've got previous paint and sips up there too if you want more video tutorials like this one. You can just do those on your own time. And if you would like to leave me a tip or a gift for today's lesson, that is always super, super appreciated. And you can do that at the tip jar little tab in my link tree as well. So if you scroll all the way down in my link tree, you'll find a little tab called tip jar, and that just makes it easy to leave me a tip if you'd like to. And that is always very much appreciated. If you did paint along with me, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram, same handle as TikTok, of your finished painting. I can't see photos that you send me on TikTok, so that's why I say on Instagram. Same handle as TikTok, DM me or post it on your story and tag me. I'd love to see your creations. I try to respond to people, but I don't always get to everybody, but I do look at them all. And yeah, so please feel free to tag me in a story or DM me on Instagram. Please, I would love to see your paintings. And I believe that is all. I would sign the painting probably down here. Oh. Okay. Sorry, have to verify that I am still actively on the live. I would sign my painting down here. I probably use a little bit of gouache to sign it, so I can show you how I do that. That's a good question. Let me grab my gouache. So I've got like just some white gouache here. Put a little bit of that on my palette. I can mix it into a watercolor color if I want to make it more cohesive. So maybe I'll mix it into some orange here. Grab some orange, grab some white gouache, and you'll get kind of a light orange color with my little detail brush here. And then I can sign it wherever I want. I usually go for bottom right corner. If this is a light color down here, I would just sign it with another watercolor color. So there you go. There's my signed painting. We have done it. I hope you all had fun. Thank you all for joining me for the painting. I hope you check out my link tree. If you're watching this on YouTube later, all of those links are in the bio. And I hope you all have a good weekend. The next live will be in a couple weekends from now, same time. Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and I always announce on Thursdays before the Saturday. So you'll know if I have a live going on if you just check my social media on the Thursday. And again, thank you all for joining.